I know what you're thinking. We can't win them all. Hey! It's Romania Black. So, I decided early on this week that I would be Nanami. Didn't have a dark blue shirt, but I was like, it's fine. I'll just say that I bleached it after I wiped the floor with that blonde-haired curse user, so the color came out, couldn't help it. Got a tie. Thought it was one of those clip-on ties that was already tied. No, it's not. So I had to watch a YouTube tutorial to try and teach myself how to tie a tie for the first time. This is that. And then I got this. I had the blazer already. I used to compete in speech, and so I had this brown blazer that still barely fits. And I was like, okay, I can wear that. And then I bought this wig. This is the Amazon Nanami Kinto wig. I don't look like Nanami Kinto. I look like Yelena from Attack on Titan put her finger in a light socket. I look like Dollar General Nanami. I am discount Clover Valley Nanami is what you're getting tonight. Oh my god, I hate blonde wigs anyway. I have another blonde wig that I could use for Nita in a few weeks. I could use it for her, but god, I hate blonde wigs. I'm just not meant to be a blonde. And anytime I try to be a blonde, it goes badly. And this was the wig. I've tried to tease it, and it just made it worse. So, I'm sorry. We can't win them all. They can't all be great cosplays. There's gonna be some duds. But I promised you I would be Nanami, and so here is your, like, what is the Dr. Thunder equivalent of Nanami Kinto? What is the diet equivalent of Nanami Kinto? It's like Nana no. I am Nana no, Kint no. But that's where we are. So I told you I was going to do it, and I commit. Even if it turns out horribly. Failure is not a sign of progress stopping. It is just a time to learn lessons and not buy another cheap blonde wig. Clearly. So we're on episode 13 or episode 37 of Attack on Titan, of Jujutsu Kaisen. That's where we are now. Season 2. And yeah, last episode was amazing. Last episode was one of my favorites in the whole season so far. And not just because Nanami got a lot of fan service, but also because lots of people got lots of fan service. There was mystery. There was heartwarming moments. There was tension. There was Nanami being pissed. It was great. And now we are in the aftermath of that, and I'm a little bit worried because Yuji has showed up with Choso facing him. The blonde curse user is not down for the count, I don't think. Mei Mei is fighting some smallpox deity, and Megumi conveniently has left the scene with Ino, and Toji, we have no clue what he's doing. So there's all these pieces on the board that's like, well, what are we going to do with that? I don't know. So that's what we have to worry about. Why not? So I do have some comments before we start this episode, though. Jake Collins talked about how cursed spirits, it's interesting that it's noted that they grew stronger and more frequent because Gojo was born. And that Gojo getting stronger has also increased the cursed activity. So now that Gojo's in the prison realm, easy sailing. We got this. We got solved, y'all. But should Jogo be happy? Shouldn't Jogo be happy that the curses were getting stronger and more frequent? So now that Gojo's imprisoned, how's that going to affect things? I thought it was interesting that they noted that back during the certain era, the simple domain arose because of the cursed spirits getting stronger and the need for the simple domain to exist. Which is funny because the simple domain is essentially what Gojo's weakness is. So is there going to be like a second coming of the simple domain? Is there going to be something else happen that's triggered because of Gojo's imprisonment and the cursed spirits being around? That's what we'll have to find out, right? But I thought that was really cool that you brought that up, Jake. That was neat to note. Seppi talks about the tin shadow technique and how it's interesting the ties between Megumi and Gojo. You have the tin shadow technique that Megumi has, the 6-eye technique that Gojo has, and they're both techniques that are individual to them, and they're both hereditary techniques that have been passed down, and they just hit the jackpot and got. So I like kind of the duality and sort of parallel application that we see with both Megumi and Gojo. It makes them seem more like father and son. in a weird way. I say in a weird way because people have been sharing some art in the Discord of them as a couple, and I'm like, it's not the age difference that makes it problematic for me because I'm shipping Megumi with Sukuna. The age difference is not a thing. But it's just kind of like the fact of, if you see somebody when they're a baby and then you grow up with them and then suddenly, I'm not a big fan of the BLs that are like, I've known you since you were in diapers, now let's make out. And I'm like, there's something wrong with that. There's just something that doesn't strike me as being appealing, but to each their own, right? As long as they're of age and consent, we're good. Midmat44 talked about how in episode 12, Maki was calling Gojo the idiot. I kind of wondered, I was like, who's she calling the idiot? And they point out that she was calling Gojo the idiot because he seems so carefree, but in that same moment, she was kind of acknowledging her respect for his strength as well. And Tamiel noted that as well, so I wanted to give you guys a shout out for that. And then finally, Anime Annie talked about how Nanami could have taken the door to get in that building. He could have just walked through the door, but no, he kicked in the glass. He kicked in the glass and showed up because he was so mad, which is insane. Anime Annie posited, because I believe they're anime only as well, I think. That does Muda know that it's Brain-kun and not Ghetto, since Mei has been spending the last episode kind of figuring it out. I don't know. Muda, aka Mekamaru, has been very quiet this last episode, like they're trying to configure some things. So maybe they're putting two and two together. Maybe they're realizing that this is a problem and we don't know how bad it is until it's going to happen. I don't know. And then finally, Nina saying, is Ichiji okay when Nanami showed up? Because Nanami had been carrying Ichiji on his back. Now, I thought that it was out of reverence. I thought that Nanami was like, I'm going to carry this corpse with me to go and properly bury him later. Screw the rest of y'all, but Ichiji was special to me. But Nina asked me if Ichiji's okay. Is he still alive? What is killing these Jujutsu sorcerers? I swear Nina was stabbed like 6 times. Ichiji was stabbed like 6 times and they're all still alive? How? What is going on? What is keeping them alive? I don't know how I feel about that. Anytime a character dies and it has an emotional resonance with that character and it's like a moment, then when they live later, you're kind of like, it feels like a cop-out, right? It feels like, oh, I felt really bad for you in this moment and the sorrow that you went through, but JK, your friend's alive. Guess that was all a waste, right? It's just, I don't know. Like, I want Ichiji to be alive, but then I feel like if they are, it's kind of a waste of that moment with Nanami, so I don't know how I feel about it, and then the dull knife title for last episode could come from either Nanami not using his blade because he just beat the shit out of the blonde cursed user with his fists, or I think it's more along the lines for me of this, that Mei is not as sharp with her skills as she used to be. She's got the axe. She's like, oh, I've never really had to fight for my life in a long time. This is going to be interesting. So I guess it could apply to both Mei and Nanami, my crack ship. So yeah, I'm sorry you all get a discount Nanami for tonight, but note to self, this wig, But what can we do with it? I look like a philosophy professor on crack is what I look like. Which, what can we do? What can we do? So I have no clue what's happening this episode, which is great. I like the idea of going into these episodes of Jujutsu Kaisen with no pretense, no expectations, just let's do this and go for it. But I guess we'll find out, won't we? So with that being said, we're going to get this ready and get the episode set up so I can start it with y'all and just see what we get. So turn my volume up, make sure my subtitles are on. Real quick, I want to give a special shout out over to our philanthropy tier over on Patreon. They all helped me buy this jank-ass wig. Thank you. That way I didn't waste my money. I used some Patreon funds to get this, so it is what it is, and to get the last tie. I do like the tie, though. I'm going to give a special shout out to them. Y'all help support me, and I truly, truly appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thanks to everybody on Patreon. They're seeing the episodes a week early, so if you're YouTube only, here's a chance. And then I want to thank these people on the philanthropy tier for being so amazing. Thanks to Edgar, to Dana, to Alex Cornejo, to Kiri, to Be Happy, to Shimoyama, to Nameless Monster, to Matthew Palfinier, to Ashy Gots No Bitches, to Trails, to Sack, to Zakiel, to Destiny Marie, to Goob, to Anna, to Translucent Men, to Sunspots, to Eric, to Anime Annie, and to Tyrone. Thank you all so much for all of your support. All of my love. So yeah, this generic Clover Valley version of Nanami is ready to get on this. Nana No is ready to do this. So here we go. But we're going to start episode 13, aka episode 37 of Jujutsu Kaisen. Rule of 8, y'all, right? We'll talk about it after the discussion. After the reaction, we're going to watch it here in 3, 2, 1, and let's see what happens with our boy Yuji. Well. Leave it to Jujutsu Kaisen. Leave it to Jujutsu Kaisen and to Gege to have this amazing action-oriented episode that was beautifully animated. Oh my gosh, Choso. It was just this action-filled episode, and about midway through the fight in the bathroom, I was like, man, this is really cool, and there's some things to talk about, but then I don't know how long this discussion is going to be, and then... And it's almost like Gege was like, oh my gosh, I forgot, guys. I made these totally action-oriented shonen chapters. I forgot to put in some batshit conspiracy theory stuff. Here you go. Bye. Oh my god. So yes. What is interesting about this, before we dive into it, because it's going to be a little bit before we get to Sukuna and to Choso's non-existent memories, what is going to be interesting is it seems like at first, when the moment happened, it seemed like Sukuna was doing like what he did with Mahito. Sukuna was reaching out to Mahito and being like, get out of here. And then Choso was like, oh my gosh, no, I gotta go with Sukuna. That's not what it was. Sukuna was talking to Yuji and been like, how dare you lose to this small fry? What the hell, man? Why do I have to come and save your ass? Choso saw something different. And I'm so fascinated by this, and I want to go back through that episode and kind of talk about it, but oh my gosh. And then Yuji Itadori is one of my favorite modern shonen protagonists for so many reasons. His innocence, his likability, his friendliness, but Gege kind of flips the script on the main protagonist MO in this episode, and I freaking love it, and it makes me love Yuji all the more. It also opens up a lot of avenues for his character, which we're going to talk about in this episode, because Yuji's not dead. He lost a damn liver, but as soon as Sukuna takes over, he's going to, like, regenerate like that, right? So Yuji will be fine. Yuji's going to be fine. He's our main character. He may have lost a liver now, but Sukuna's like, I can't drink my sake if you don't have a liver. So we're going to grow that right back, right? Let's talk about this episode. Oh my god. So we get a lot in this episode symbolically about signs. Should you be sign everywhere, a sign blocking out the scenery, breaking my mind. Yuji, you should pay attention to the signs. I feel like Gege is trying to tell us, the audience, you should probably be paying attention to this because there's something important here. So a big part of this episode is about signs. There's lots of episodes about signs pointing. There are lots of signs that are pointing in terms of direction. There are lots of signs involving people and this idea of crossing over, which is we're going to talk about in a little bit. And then there's the idea of I always think of Neon Genesis Evangelion. Whenever I see a green arrow sign, I'm like, The idea of exiting and entering. That's another thing to point out. And then the idea of danger and direction, which is up here, right? Danger and direction together, which will kind of tie back over here, right? So yeah, the idea of signs, that's kind of symbolically and literally what they mean, but it also could be tying to that we need to pay attention to what Gege gives us in this episode, because I feel like this whole idea where the twins at the last part of the end credits are like, let's begin. I feel like I think I know what they're going to do, but I don't know for sure. But I feel like it's going to be something that's not going to be fun for Yuji, but will probably save his life, because I have theories about what those girls are trying to do. Have you all ever seen Devilman Crybaby? I binge watched it one night from like 8 p.m. till 4 a.m. I like binge watched the whole series. I need to go back and rewatch it at some point and like do an analysis of it, because I just binge watched it and my jaw was on the floor half the time. But the art style during the transfigured humans part here at the beginning with all the people, it reminds me a lot of Devilman Crybaby, and maybe the same art director did it, but the animation style, the way it's so grisly and gross, but it's like gory, but not, there's not blood spurting everywhere, but it's just gory enough. And you see people like, there's a woman split in half. There's like just body parts everywhere. It's very grisly, but it reminded me a lot of Devilman Crybaby just in that moment. And we have the concept here of Yuji being like, I can't ignore them, but I need to keep on moving because I have an objective. Mahito was right. Mahito said that, Gojo would be very willing to sacrifice whatever. Gojo's like, I've got an objective. I don't care who I sacrifice. Whatever. It's to get the job done. I don't care what I have to do. Yuji's not like that. And, Mahito's pretty smart to make that call, right? So we have Yuji. Who is our, main character. Not Gojo, even though we'd like to think that Gojo is. I'm going to get a darker marker than this. Who's our main character. Yeah, we'll go with red. It fits Choso anyway, being with Yuji here. So yeah, we have Yuji and the idea of wanting to save others, but knowing his duty. And I kind of like that about Yuji as a character, because honestly, there are a lot of main characters in other shonen that whenever they are given a mission, but then something personal happens and they feel like this personal business, are like, oh, well, I know I've been given this objective, but this personal thing has come up, so I'm going to take care of it first and then get back to the main objective. And a lot of times it can be self-serving, and we kind of just ignore it and go with it and be like, well, they're the main character. Of course they can do that. In Yuji's case, though, Yuji's like, no, I want to save these people so badly, but I need to go to Gojo. That's my job. And so he's like, what do I do? And then Inumaki shows up. So Yudo was not with him. Now, that doesn't mean anything. They spoke like 3 words, Yuji and Inumaki did. So Inumaki has shown up. Yudo could be somewhere. Around. We don't know. Yudo could be somewhere that we're not sure about. But Inumaki has shown up to help him at least make it to where the cursed spirits stop moving, right? I'm glad to see him. I'm wondering if Yuta is somewhere else and we'll see him towards, the next couple episodes in the season. Maybe. Don't know. So we have Choso and the idea of his blood manipulation called convergence. And it enhances the speed of his blood with cursed energy, and he can use it as a weapon. The concept of the pink tones and the blue tones, like the different shades of red and blue from the 2 bathrooms, like coinciding with one another to create like this magenta purple tone. It was a very aesthetically pleasing episode in terms of all the colors that were used. I don't know where my dog's toy has gone. There it is. But it was very aesthetically pleasing, and I liked it a lot. And the animators really went all out to make this episode look really good. I'm sure there were moments in the fight where some of the people watching would be like, oh, it wasn't as refined or detailed. It was more choppy and, more blurry, and they were more like crude as they were fighting. I'm sure the manga was like that too. I'm sure the manga's like that as well. So I feel like that's fine. But God, the lighting in some of these scenes and the way the pinks and the teals like reflected off of Yuji and Choso, it was gorgeous. Like, I have a feeling I'm going to be taking so many screenshots of Choso and just putting them in the Discord being like, look at how good he looks. And so Yuji's like, who the hell are you? And again, we had the concept of the arrow is pointing where Yuji needs to go, but Yuji cannot go because Choso's in the way. And so he's like, who is this guy? And then Choso's like, do you know what my brother said? And I like that Yuji immediately realizes who he's talking about. I'm glad the episode didn't drag that out. It was like that. It was like, oh, those are his brothers. Ah. And he's like, I don't know what they said, but they were crying. And then, of course, Choso, who is very close to his brothers, are like, what? And gets super pissed. And then fights him even more. I also like that as his, like, the line on his, it looks like a nose guard. It looks like Marsha from Drag Race and from Brady Bunch. And it just, like, expands as he gets mad. I really like that. I like that it becomes arrows. And then the arrow sign that was pointing towards where Yuji needs to go falls down and is pointing towards Yuji. The art direction in this episode was really technically good. Like, just, they incorporated just the movement of the camera, like first person point of view, which was very disorienting. So luckily I was stationary watching it, but it felt like a ride you were on when it was moving around and you were from that perspective. I could see somebody getting a little motion sick if they tried to follow it. And then Choso is the elder brother, and I'm gonna fight and get vengeance for you. The way that blood was used in this fight was so well done. Like, just it's so creative, because you think of blood being used like maybe as a rope or as something that pierces, but here it's spread out. It became like little bombs. It became a spray of bullets. It was used in so many effective ways that showed just how deadly an opponent Choso could be. Even though Sukuna believes that they're not very much of a threat. Sukuna's like, this small fry? Oh, please, they're just throwing ketchup at you. What are you doing? I've made Sukuna a Valley Girl, as happens with most antagonists on this channel. But yeah, it's just really, really well done. And I like that for a while, Yuji and him are on equal footing. Yuji just makes the mistake most protagonists make, and it's they get too assured of themselves, and then it just backfires. I'm like, what are you doing? And so, yeah, the blood, if it hits my head, I'm dead. Then I should jump up and I like that Yuji is smart enough to kind of assess the situation and be like, I need to determine where he's going to fire it. He tries to figure it out himself. I mean, Yuji does a good job with it for a while in the fight, but he just can't lay a punch on Choso, and when he uses a supernova technique and then getting stabbed in the foot, it's not a fun time. No. I've watched somebody be stabbed in the foot on accident. It's not a fun time. And the fact that Yuji still keeps fighting, I'm like eventually he reaches his limit, right? But he goes on for quite a while, and I'm like, what are these Jujutsu sorcerers made of? Which, granted, he has Sukuna inside of him, so any damage is gonna get fixed, right? Sukuna's gonna rip off that shirt, expose his 8-pack, we're gonna be right as rain. Sukuna's like, I need that liver for my alcoholism. So, no, I don't think Sukuna is alcoholic, but yeah. So again, I love the colors of when Choso and him are fighting each other and they're getting hasty. One of my favorite parts of this episode, as he's fighting him, well, we'll get to it because it's the whole thing with the rainbow and Mekamaru. So Mekamaru's been conserving energy. Good for him. It makes sense. Mekamaru's like, I need to conserve energy to help you. Although now the problem is Mekamaru is gone. This version is. There were 3 of them. 2 have been destroyed. We don't know where the 3rd one is. But 2 of the Mekamarus have been destroyed. And now, Yuji's by himself with the twins, which is concerning. Don't know what to make of that yet. We're going to talk about it. But he talks about the curse manipulation. What I really loved was that as he's explaining the Kamo clan's technique, and what did Yuji call him? Like a thin-eyed, three-eyed freak or something? I was like, what? What is happening here? Also, I like that the show, bookmarks it bookmarks with the stop sign and the person no crossing, and then at the end the no crossing is cut in half, which was really fun. But going back to the rainbow, I'm gonna get to the rainbow here with Mekamaru, where he's explaining the blood techniques, right? So yeah, he's like, I don't know what its weakness is. He's like, but there's piercing blood, there's blood blade, which are derived from, and you see as you follow the arrows on the rainbow board there, as you follow the arrows, it explains the techniques. That's so freaking cool. You have Sekutsu, so jutsu, you have Byakuren, Senketsu, you have Katsu, Jin, which is the blade, and then you have Cho Shinsei, right, which is the meteor. So you get And he's like, since he won't bleed out, he has no openings. So yeah, he can control the blood and absorb it back into his body constantly, so you're not going to make him bleed out. That's not going to work. But I just love that the way Gege used the techniques in the board to describe it. And there's like the arrows again. It's so clever. I love it because you can imagine that in the manga, I don't know if they stylistically have things as good as they do here, but it's a way to keep the movement in the episode moving because you have some exposition, but you don't want it to kill the momentum that the fights have been bringing. So I thought it was really well done. And then he went to the bathroom. I'm like, Choso. He's like, you're either going to get worn down until you're killed anyway, so we need to try this. And so he goes in the restroom. I like that we have the men and the women's. It's like, get bent, genders. And then in the rain. God, the fight in the rain was so good. And Yuji and then pulling out all the stops. Like Yuji conserving the energy in his left hand. Trying to like the dissolving of the blood with the water. Like, and then Choso saving like his final trump card. Like, it was a really good battle. But damn it, Yuji got cocky. And was like, I can win. And that was the problem. But they made this fight look so good. And I like that Choso's just sitting there like, okay, I'm gonna fight you. I definitely want to cosplay as Choso at some point in this season. At some point I do. And here's the thing. Yuji is like, Choso accepted, like, this is the fight that I've got to do. And what sucks is that Yuji wants to ask, why are you doing this? What's going on? I don't know anything about your brothers, but why are you fighting with whoever is against Gojo? What's happening? But there's no opportunity. So this is kind of the important thing about Yuji. He wants to understand. He wants to understand why things are happening, but there is no opportunity at this moment, and he knows that if he tries to stop and rationalize with Choso's going to kill him. And he's like, I just want to talk, but that's not on the table at the moment, right? And that is not on the table. So yeah, so he's like, there's no opportunity for me to ask about it. So what I do know one thing. And he's like, I dragged him into my turf. So, and that line there, Yuji's like, I drug him into this basement. I lured him to come fight me. So I can't just back out now. And I'm like just the dignity of our boy Yuji, right? Like, what the heck? And then they have this amazing battle in the rain. But God, that moment where Yuji thinks that he's doing well, he thinks he's got it, he's headbutt him, he's punched him to oblivion, and he gets his liver shot out. The meteorite. Damn it. It destroyed something that shouldn't be broken. I'm like, I mean, we know Sukuna's probably going to help him. He did before. So he can do it again, right? But this is the part of Yuji at this point in the episode that I absolutely loved. And that is, he says, I know what my role is. And my role, he's like, I have a role. And if I die, someone else can succeed instead of me. And he says, I don't have to rescue Gojo. That is huge. Because if you've watched Shonen and grew up with Shonen like me, the Shonen protagonist usually is all like, I have to be the savior. I have to be the one to save the day. It has to be me that is the cause of all this righteousness and everything that happens to save the damsel in distress, or in this case, to save my mentor in distress. Like, if Yuji was a main character in another series, they'd be like, I have to beat Choso so I can go save the day. No. Yuji's like, if I die, I tried. And someone else will pick up the reins and take over instead of me. That just floors me. It makes me love Yuji so much more. And it makes sense with Yuji's character, because Yuji's character is kind of on borrowed time anyway. Gojo just got him this borrowed time because he's going to be executed by Jujutsu Society anyway, because of the fingers of Sukuna that are in him. So Yuji's like, I don't care what happens to me, but I'm going to make sure to stop Choso so that other people like Inumaki can go and save Gojo in my place. It is a very Nanami mentality, by the way. Yuji, it's funny, Megumi takes a lot from Gojo as in terms of being a mentor. Even though Yuji is out to save Gojo, Megumi is really the one that is Gojo's student, right? Yuji, whether he realizes it or not, is Nanami's student. Yuji takes after Nanami a lot because that line about I know what my role is and I'm going to do it no matter what, that is absolutely something that Nanami Kento would say. And I'm like, oh my God. But yeah, I understand what my role is. And if I die, I'm going to take this guy out. And then we have the tooth that's used as the distraction. And I like the idea of Choso like using the blood to coagulate, like to get on his arm. And like, it's a gamble for both of them. Both of them are taking risks in this moment, but they're both dead set on winning. And Yuji having the big cut across his face. I'm like, I'm sure that's going to scar and leave like a scar on his face. Like he's already got one. Now he'll have another one. But damn, he tries so hard, but the blood used in his face, all of that. And he ends up getting knocked up against the wall. Yep. Because he used the blood to like harden like an armor against his rib cage right when Yuji struck. And then he punched him back in kind. And that's what knocked him over. Yep. Too bad. And he also shot like part of his arm out. So at this point, Sukuna's going to have to rescue him. That's not even, off the table. I do the composition of the light shining as it like cuts through him. There's a light coming from the window and it shows it like cutting him in half, which is kind of like Yuji being taken over by Sukuna. So I want to go up here and see this moment, okay? Because Yuji's up against the wall. He looks like he's dead. He's barely breathing. It's like, oh my God, what do we do? And then Choso's like, well, he's still alive, so I'm going to go kill him. And again, you have the women's restroom and the men's restroom. It shows their body like bisected. You see half a man and half a woman. And it's like the body is split in half, which is kind of like Sukuna is inside of Yuji, ready to take over, right? So, oh my God. And just shows him up against the wall there. And then Choso comes up. Now, what's weird in this scene is that like the light, I love the ticking lights and the lights flashing inside of Yuji as Sukuna is like acknowledging him. And then the lights flickering on the outside is really well done. He says, how worthless. Losing to such riffraff. Oh my God, I forgot for a hot second that Suabe voiced Sukuna. And I was like, ooh, yes. I was like, ooh, Suabe, welcome back. Also, he looks like such a cat. He has like his eyes, he just has these cat eyes being like, you lost to this? What are you doing? Losing to such riffraff. And like the eyes, I'm like, do you have a Shuriken? Is this Naruto for a hot second? And then, yeah, he closes his eyes and then opens them wide. Oh my God. But Choso has Yuji by the hood like he's ready to kill him. And then he stares at something and moves away. He stares at something and moves away. It's like, did he sense Sukuna in that moment? That Sukuna was inside of him and was like, oh shit, I need to get out of here. There was like, but I love that the hole through Yuji and through the wall transitions into the eyeball of Choso. That was amazing. Now, see, here's the thing. Sukuna was talking to Yuji. Sukuna was like, how dare you lose to this riffraff? What are you doing? Do I need to take over? But he doesn't in that moment, right? He's having a mental conversation with Yuji and we don't get to see Yuji's part of it yet, right? But Choso touches Yuji. Now, why these memories happen now when they didn't happen any other time they touched during this episode? And maybe they didn't come in skin-to-skin contact the entire episode. I mean, they kind of do, but maybe what triggers these non-existent memories? Because Choso has a moment where he's like, fudge, what is this? I don't like this. And he kind of freaks out. And he looks down at the blood. Oh, it's their blood mixing. Oh, that's what it is. Oh, and he runs out because their blood mixes. That's what it is. Oh, So we have the swirling is Choso and Yuji's blood. Which that explains, because I was like, they've touched before during this fight. They've been doing hand-to-hand combat. So it's not touch that initiated the memories coming out. It's the blood. Because the blood powers are a curse technique, right? So it activates, it gives Choso, quote unquote, non-existent memories. Now, it is conspiracy theory time, and I know I'm going to posit some things that sound crazy, and you all are going to be like, Romania, you sweet summer child, you lamb. No. And I'm just going to posit things, and I could be 1,000 times off the mark, but we'll just find out when we find out in the show, because I think the show is going to tell us eventually. This episode was such a setup of saying, like, here's a concept, but guess we'll see what happens with it. But I want to throw out some theories, okay? So the big question, first of all, is, were the memories that Choso featured and was like, were the memories from Sukuna or from Yuji? I'm going to say Yuji, because Sukuna is just possessing him. Sukuna is just like another soul inhabiting Yuji's body. It's just another soul. It's kind of like, it's funny that we're talking about this, because it's kind of like Sukuna is similar to the whole thing with Toji happening right now. The difference is, like with Toji, it just took a tiny bit for Toji to be able to be inhabited by the grandson, but Toji is a special case, and he ended up possessing the body, and plus the grandson was not that strong, so whatever. Yuji's pretty strong, but Sukuna, it's the idea of eating a lot of him and a lot of his fingers to bring him back further and further, and we'll talk about that at the end of this episode. So even though it would make sense for the blood mixing to give him the non-existent memories because Sukuna's a curse and Choso's a curse, I think it's from Yuji. It's not from Sukuna, because it's Yuji's blood. So Yuji's blood gives Choso these non-existent memories. Let's get to that in this episode. And we see him walking in the direction the arrow is pointing him now, and the light is green. And Choso's like, what is this? And it's him from the OP having a freak out, being like, what is this bad trip? Now, it does make him feel like he's having a bad trip, like the blood's gotten mingled and like contaminated, and like his blood and Yuji's blood should not mix, interestingly enough. So then what do we have here? And then it just looks like in that moment, memories flooded Choso's mind. Memories that didn't exist. So this is like something out straight out of Alice in Wonderland. It's freaking weird, and I'm all here for it. This is my kind of weird. I like surreal, experimental, batshit crazy imagery that you're like, what does that mean? I love it. I'm here for it. So, okay, we got the spaghetti. We're going to break this down. We've got the spaghetti. It has the 3 basil leaves on it with like a bunch of little basil leaves coming out. Has the tomatoes and mushrooms. Is there significance to the basil leaves? We don't know. But from someone's perspective, we see memories of someone swirling the spaghetti, right? And holding the spoon up and feeding the one brother, right? And they all have like little suspenders on. He's like, yay, the fudge. And it's Yuji. And Yuji's feeding the brother. And like, it shows him like feeding the brother. So we have Yuji in this hoodie feeding Ketchuso. We have Choso, like, they all have glasses of wine. And then we have Eso, like, sitting there. And they're all sitting there, the 4 of them. And in front of them are 6 different vials that I'm assuming are more curse wound paintings. Am I right? Right? So yeah, so there's 6 in the vials. There's the 3 of them that make 9, and then Yuji makes 10. So we have the 6 vials that Choso still wants to get from the academy, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He wants to get the 6 from the academy. Okay, from Jujutsu High. That's what he wants to get. And then there are Choso, Eso, and Ketchuzu, right? I think that's right. And then Yuji's over here. Just hanging out. Like he's one of the guys. Just hanging out. And I don't know if, I mean, logically, and there's the roses on the table and the red wine. I mean, if you think about it, it's like, would it make sense for if Yuji's blood is mixing with Choso's, then it makes Choso believe that Yuji's one of them. Because I'm sure that it's like, what, the cursed womb paintings are all like aborted fetuses that became curses from the Kamo, the main woman there. So it makes sense that all their blood is probably connected and they all have like connection through their blood. So if you have a foreign blood get intermingled, maybe like the big question is for me at this point is it particularly special that Yuji is the one here that's with them? Is that particularly important? Or could this same scenario, like if Choso was standing over, let's say Nita. Let's say Nita was in Yuji's shoes and he was standing over Nita's body and her blood intermixed with his. Would he have the same vision but with Nita standing there? Would that be the case or not? I don't know, because when he was down the subway attacking the other people, none of their blood that we saw mixed with his. So, I don't know. But if that's not the case and it is Yuji that is special, and Yuji is somewhat the only reason that this memory thing happens, then that's connecting Yuji to Choso and them, right? Somehow. Or it's connecting Sukuna to them somehow. Now, there's a lot of ways you can go about this. I mean, we could look at the fact that there are, Sukuna being a curse. And is Sukuna's curse tied to the cursed womb paintings? That's a big possibility. It could be that Sukuna's tied to the cursed womb paintings, and because he's in Yuji's body, that's why these memories happened. The other option is that it's Yuji who is tied to Choso and the other cursed womb paintings. Now, is Yuji a cursed womb painting? I don't think so. Yuji's a human, so I don't think that's the case, right? I don't think that he's one of the cursed womb paintings, right? But we know nothing about Yuji's parentage. His grandfather didn't talk about it. We know nothing about it. I don't feel like the grandpa knew anything that we didn't, but maybe the grandfather just didn't know, and so he just didn't have the heart to tell Yuji. I honestly don't really know anything, but so I think I've said this maybe before. I don't know. Maybe I said this back in season 1, but I know that Gege draws a lot of inspiration from 90s anime. We've talked about Bleach. We've talked about Dragon Ball Z. And we've talked about Trigun. There's connections there. One of my favorite 90s shonen is Yu Yu Hakusho. And without spoiling much of that series, I guess I'll put spoilers up here. Yu Yu Hakusho spoilers up here for the next 30 seconds. In Yu Yu Hakusho, which has had some similarities in this series, you can see a little bit of inspiration. In Yu Yu Hakusho, Yu Yu is half demon. His father's a demon. That comes out. His mom is a human. His father's a demon. And that comes out in the show. And anytime, end of Yu Yu Hakusho spoilers, anytime that a main character's parents are not mentioned or brought out, there's something there, right? There's something there. Gege's not mentioning it for reasons. He's fooling no one. So the question is, well, were his parents curse users? Were his parents sorcerers? And we just didn't know it. Megumi notes back in season 1 and episode 1 that Yuji is very special. He was naturally athletic, but there was like a strength to him that seemed not human right off the bat. I mean, before he even eats the finger of Sukuna, he's like fighting those curses from episode 1 and doing things most humans would not be able to do. So it's like, So even back at the beginning of the season, it's like, okay, well, is Yuji's family, were they curse users? Were they Jujutsu sorcerers? And that's where he's gotten some of this background from. And maybe they were like, the Star Religious group and they were just a cult and underground. It'd be kind of cool if Yuji's family were like Star Religious members and we just don't know it yet. And then, it comes out that his family was part of the cult that Gojo and Geto hated. Like, that'd be kind of cool. I'd be kind of about that because Yuji doesn't know, Yuji's like, what? But I do think there's something here. Yuji has some connection to the curses, and thematically, it would make sense that Yuji's been the most empathetic to the curses. He's wanted to talk to them and understand them. If Yuji was somehow, connected to the curses in some way, I don't know biologically how it would work, and that's where I want Gege to tell me, but I know it's going to come. I know that Gege just took a jar and opened the lid slightly and said, hey, you want to look inside? Can you kind of see it? No, not yet. That's what Gege has done in this moment, is being like, there's something you don't know that you're going to need to know and want to know, but I'm not going to tell it to you yet. It's like, dang it. So yeah, so if it is Yuji, I don't think he's one of the curse wound paintings because he's human. And because I'm like, I feel like the Jujutsu sorcerers would know he was a curse if he was a curse. So, and he's not. So if he's not a curse wound painting, then what is the deal? And maybe Yuji's related to the Kamo family, and we just don't know it yet. Maybe Yuji's related to the Kamo family, like distantly, and one of his parents is related to the Kamos, and that's why his blood, when it mixes with Choso's, it's like, oh, he's having this memory because maybe Yuji, like way down the line, has some Kamo family member, and then that's where the connection is. And Choso is able to see it because he's come from, how many generations ago in the cursed womb, and now that's the connection. And it's freaking him out because he's like, wait, what? How are we connected? Because if you think about it, if Yuji's like a distant relative to Choso and these curses, because they were, humans that have eaten the curse wombs, and the curse wombs would be what would be related to Yuji. If that's the case, Choso would feel miserable because not only did he attack, not only did the person he attacked possibly be related to him, but is also related to his brothers. And it's like, oh no, like Choso seems like he's so family oriented. They'd be like, I don't want to hurt anybody in my family, even if it's like a descendant, right? Because at this point, Choso and Eso and Ketchuzo are like the ancestors, and Yuji would be like the descendant, right? So I think there's a possibility that when their blood mixed, it's a sign. I don't think Yuji's a curse, even though he has Sukuna inside of him. I don't think he's a curse wound painting, but there's a possibility maybe that there's a Kamo in his background somewhere, and Choso's just kind of exposed it and been like, So there's some skeletons in the closet, is what I'm saying. We shall see. But I want to go through this. Yeah, like the little curse wound paintings in the jars are freaky. But yeah, and then Choso. So we see the one brother, Ketchuzo, like looking back at spaghetti, and we see Yuji like getting his own spaghetti. And then we see Eso and the brothers. And their clothing all changes. Their clothing changes, and they go from wearing different outfits to all wearing the exact same hoodie. Like they're suddenly wearing the same hoodie, and it's the same wine glasses and everything. Like they're one and the same. But I don't know how Yuji could be a curse wound painting. That doesn't make any sense. So the imagery is suggesting that they're one and the same. But that doesn't make sense. I don't know how that's possible. And I don't want to know, so please don't spoil me. We'll figure it out together. And then we see the 6 jars lined up. The 6 curse wombs are lined up in a row. And then we see him spinning the spaghetti again. We see the rose blooming. It's interesting that you have the rose blooming and it has 3 petals. And there's 3 basil leaves on the spaghetti. The number 3 coming into play. I mean, I guess. And then he says, you too, brother. And Choso goes to eat it. Huh. And it's so slow motion and creepy. It's super creepy in slow motion. And that's when he breaks the glass. What's happening? I feel like Choso is going to go to Brain-kun and ask him what's up. Because, yeah, and I love that there's a piece of the puzzle, a piece of the glass falls down and shatters, like there's been a crack in the dam. Something is amiss, something is weird, and Choso's like, what the hell is happening? And what does he say, I mean, Yuji can't be a curse, he's human. But that moment suggested that they're brothers. Or maybe they're relatives and he's just like, we're blood brothers. We share similar blood. I don't feel like Yuji's a curse wound painting, but I don't know how that would work. But that was so freaky. And Choso is like, what do I do about this? And so I feel like he's going to go back to Ghetto or Brain-kun and be like, do you know something weird just happened? I want to talk about it. Or maybe he'll go find Jogo. He's not going to go to Mahito. Mahito doesn't care. But he might go find Jogo and be like, what is this? Did you know this is happening? Do you know what this is? Do you know there's something weird going on? I want Choso to ask Gojo or Jogo or Brain-kun about this because I want answers. And I feel like Brain-kun knows what's up, and that's why he either wants to keep Sukuna around because Sukuna can be useful. It's Russian roulette, but could be useful. Or Brain-kun wants them to get rid of Yuji because if Choso finds out something of what Yuji might be, he's going to freak out and maybe turn tail. Or at least be mad at Brain-kun, but I don't know. Gege just gave us like this big mystery bomb. It was like, here you go. Haha. And you're like, what? Why? It felt like a Brian David Gilbert film. Honestly, he's one of my favorite YouTubers, and it feels like something he would do, right? So then we see the two twins show up. They show up, and they look over his body, and they're like, yeah, let's get this started then. I feel like they're going to feed him fingers. I feel like the twins have stolen fingers of Sukuna, and they're going to feed him to Yuji to get Sukuna to come out and be resurrected. I think so. Aside from that, I have no clue what they would do. Unless they're going to like harvest a kidney. I don't know. Aside from feeding him more fingers to try to get... Because here's what I think. I think that the girls, if they were listening to the conversation that Brain-kun was having with the others, they're like, oh, this kid is really strong. He could be a threat to Brain-kun. He could maybe defeat him and let us get Ghetto's body back so that we can give him a proper burial like we wanted to. So let's go resurrect Sukuna and let this be chaotic. The question I have regarding if they're going to feed him Sukuna fingers, the question I have is, one, are they doing this whole thing on Brain-kun's orders? Did Brain-kun send them here to do something? Or are they doing this independently on their own? I want to say they're doing it independently on their own because Brain-kun does not seem concerned about them. He's like, go, get out, don't need you, blah, 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 whatever. I feel like he just sent them on their way because they're not a threat to him. And if they try to get in his way, he said he's going to kill them. And he doesn't want to do that because it's Ghetto's body. But I don't think that he sent them here. I think they came here on their own. If they haven't stolen fingers of Sukuna and they're not going to feed them to Yuji, the only other thing I can think that they might do is they may like have some kind of voodoo powers where they like bring him back and like sew him up and patch him. They may patch him up and be like, hey, you need to go stop Ghetto. You're our only chance to stop him and get his body back for us. So please do that. So they're either going to like try to heal him or they're possibly have Sukuna fingers and they're going to try to feed him to him to get Sukuna to pop out. My fear is that as they're trying to heal him, Sukuna is going to like emerge after he's talked with Yuji and hurt the two girls and then go on a rampage. Don't know if that's going to happen or not, but I guess we'll find out. I don't know. I didn't know how much I was going to talk about this episode, but I actually talked quite a bit about it. Mainly about this weird theory that Yuji's possibly a descendant of Choso and them, possibly related. How? I don't know. Here's the thing, though. I don't want to know, and I don't want anybody telling me, because I know when Gege drops a bomb, when he drops a bomb, it is massive. And it's going to be like a mind fuck. And I don't drop the F-bomb often, but that's what it's going to be. And so I have my theories that Yuji might be related to Akamo, and when their blood mixed, Choso had that reaction and saw Yuji at the table with them because he was like them. But I don't know. The big, test would be to see if actually Kamo was there and his blood mixed with Choso's, would Choso have the same memory? That's what we need to test. We needed some testing to make sure this holds water, but I do like at the very end, we see the two twins standing over Yuji saying, let's get this started. And we see the two halves of the man and women restroom sign dissected. And right next to it, we see the two of them standing there, you know, in perfect composition. So it almost feels like they're there to patch him up. I don't know. The thing that's going to be very frustrating is if next episode we don't go back to this. Because that's what's going to happen, damn it. I know exactly what's going to happen. I'm going to be like, I want to see what they're going to do with Yuji. I'm going to see where Choso goes. We're not going to go back to that. We're going to jump over to Panda and find out what he's been doing. And I'm like, oh. There's so many people on the board. Gege is just like, and Gege is doing this intentionally, I'm sure. Gege is like, I want to get all these pieces situated where I want them for me to just drop my bomb. So here's the thing. I'm curious to know your thoughts down below, but please, 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 I'm going to ask the mods to check. So please, in regards to the weird fever dream, I don't want to know anything. I want to be completely in the dark. I don't want to know a thing. I don't want to know an answer at all. And I'm going to ask the mods to be super diligent. If anybody has any spoilery things, I'm instantly going to heart them and move on. So if you've been getting just hearts in the comments by me, that means I'm not reading them. That means that my mods have told me that it has a spoiler, but the only way to get rid of a comment in my inbox is to heart it. So if a mod tells me there's a spoiler, I just like cover the comment up with my finger, heart it, refresh, and it's gone. So that's what I've been doing. It's a frustrating process, but it's highly effective. So just save your wrists, save your carpal tunnel, and just don't tell me anything about the dream. Nothing. Unless you're like, man, that was freaky, right? Other than that, not a word. But we'll figure it out. Gege is going to drop a bomb on us, and I'm ready. So sorry you had to have not a Mo, Kent Mo, but anyway, I'm excited to hear what you all thought of the action and other non-freaky things of this episode. In any case, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe. Take care. And yeah, I'm going to be back next week. Don't you worry. With another episode of Jujutsu Kaisen. Bye.